And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Good Saturday morning, DFW. This is a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. People are going to be out barbecuing juicy burgers and steaks and barbecue ribs, and it only makes sense to start with a segment on heart health, doesn't it? So my first two guests, Laura Howard, she's with Boston Heart Diagnostics, and Dr. Robert Edmonson from Marula Medical in Oak Cliff. Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start with you, Laura, because you and I were talking off the air. You have a very personal reason for being with Boston Heart.
I do. So in my history, I started off my career after graduate school going into finance and was at Bank of America, wonderful people, corporate office, and did not find it quite as fulfilling. And thanks to my brother, I was able to get back to Texas. I got myself into pharmaceuticals and worked on calling on wonderful physicians like Dr. Edmonson and others talking about heart disease, and watched how doctors would work with their patients. And I, in particular, had a product that was a little bit difficult to take. Patients would have some uncomfortable side effects. And what I discovered was I needed to help physicians see things in a different way to get them a little more open-minded to considering talking to their patients about things that might help them. And I got introduced to advanced cardiovascular testing. And what I found was that physicians were now calling me wanting to know more. It opened up their mind, their window, got them to look at other supplements and pharmaceuticals. It was a great experience. Well, in my mid to late 20s, I thought, well, I want my test run. I want to have this wonderful experience. I see all these patients having great results. Well, I was somebody that maybe didn't have outward signs of heart disease and quite honestly didn't have inward signs based on traditional lipid panels like most people have when they go to the doctor's office. And when I had my first advanced test run, I discovered that I actually did have high risk. I found genetic risk markers that put me at a much higher risk for heart disease and heart attacks and strokes compared to the general population. And although that was very difficult at first to absorb at such a young age, it made sense. My mother was adopted, and we don't know any history on my mother. And my father's dad had a heart attack the day before their wedding at 40. And so we get to see pictures of my parents in their tux and their bridal gown at the hospital. He did survive, but they were spending their wedding day at the hospital with my grandfather at age 40. And what it made me realize was I was going to be one of those people that was going to be missed. And unlike my grandfather, who at age 40 had a son graduating and getting married, when I turned 40, I had a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old son. And I need to be there for them. And knowing this information early helped me make better choices and live a different lifestyle that had I not known, I can't say I would be here today.
Wow, Laura, thank you for being a guest and sharing that story with us. Dr. Edmonson, let's bring you into this. I think a lot of the listeners and the viewers who will see this on YouTube later will be shocked that somebody like Laura could be vulnerable to a heart attack. She looks in the peak of health. So is the heart kind of a tricky part of the body that you even if you're jogging or working out, that you still could be vulnerable?
I don't know that I would use a word that is tricky, but the heart has certainly its own identity, and it's really the arteries supply the heart with blood. That's really the issue. That's where the resistance comes in to flow. That's where the blood clots form. So it's the arteries themselves, and they can be very deceptive. You can have a significant blockage in the artery, maybe 50% blocking it. You'd be asymptomatic. Everybody's heard the story of the runner who looked like they were in great shape, and he had a heart attack. Why should that have happened? He was doing everything he could. Well, running is important. Fitness is important, but there's other factors important as well. If you have a plaque that's very aggressive and it ruptures, it may be blocking the artery 40%, there'd be no symptoms, but then that creates a rough surface on the lining that attracts blood clot. The blood clot shuts the artery off, and so then you just lose circulation, the heart dies. So it is deceptive, I would say, and it is a masquerader. in many respects. Sometimes people have advanced coronary disease, and fatigue is the only symptom they have. So it is a masquerader of many other problems that can be attributed to other things that seem to be less important. So yes, it can be a deceptive disease.
Okay, so Laura, tell us what Boston Heart is all about.
Boston Heart is a company that assists physicians like Dr. Edmonson and companies like Marula Medical, where Dr. Edmonson is, helps them with tools and services to help patients understand their level of risk and also provide information for them to be able to digest a complex subject matter and be able to understand not only the information being communicated, but what their level of risk is, but give them tools and services and treatment regimens to help them become successful in their journey to better health.
And Dr. Edmonson, you've been practicing for 40 years, I imagine. Is that about right?
47.
47.
Right.
47. Companies like Boston Heart Diagnostics, they really, it's come light years from when you first started practicing medicine in terms of what we're able to learn about the body. Is
Without
that right?
a doubt. We've come light years in so many respects in cardiology since I've been in practice, but that's a critical area that's very important and very different than we've had in the past. When I was first in practice, we didn't have statins to treat hyperlipidemia with. And that's made a huge impact. And then all the factors that we didn't know were causing problems that have been detected make a huge difference. Like Boston Heart does a test called, it checks the homocysteine in the blood. And some people are aware of what the homocysteine is, but it's a protein. It's a breakdown product of protein metabolism. The body should metabolize it back to other proteins. If it accumulates, it damages the bloodstream. There's a genome that some people have that doesn't allow them to convert folic acid to methylfolate necessary to metabolize that. I don't want to get too complex, but the fact is, it is something which we can detect. It's very treatable with as a supplement that has methylated folate in it, and yet it can cause cardiovascular disease. So many issues like that are we just not previously aware of that's really opened the door to much more aggressive management.
Well, and I think one of the problems is that, especially guys, and I'm going to just speak for guys. Guys, you have an injury, you tough it out, and guys sometimes don't want to know. I think about the late great Kid Credit, nationally known DJ, a fairly young man, and died of a heart attack, and it was very preventable. Unfortunately, can you speak to that, Dr. Edmonson? That men just don't want to go get checked up.
Well, it is a macho thing, and that's sure it's very true, and it can actually, when younger men find that they have heart disease, it can be very depressing to them because we have a lot of our ego associated with our lack of vulnerability. But the disease itself, this is not exactly your question, but it brings up to it. Disease starts when we're very young. And this may not be information that many people know, but in the Korean War, unfortunately, lost a lot of young men. They did autopsies, and 73% had evidence of coronary plaque forming already. So when a person 45 or 50 has a heart attack, they feel invulnerable. Disease has been going on for a long time. That's why lifestyle is so important. The testing that Laura represents and is extremely critical and very helpful and kind of a backbone for me addressing problems with patients, but the general lifestyle changes what's really huge. Our nutrition is terribly important, proper exercise is important, stress reduction is important. All these factors are important in our health, and it all starts when we're young and needs to be addressed at a younger generation.
And that is a large part of Boston Heart. They have a lifestyle program. Why don't you talk about that, Laura?
Sure. Boston Heart, what sets Boston Heart apart is that it's not just giving an evolution of wonderful state-of-the-art tools to the physicians. It's also providing information so that the patients can become engaged with their health. And that starts both in understanding the disease state, but also lifestyle is the first line of defense, and it's often overlooked or often not pursued, whether because there's not time in the office visit for a physician to talk about it, or they don't have the resources like Dr. Edmonson does with their nutritionist to go through this information. Boston Heart brought on a dietitian, a doctor from The Biggest Loser, Dr. Michael Dansinger, and he brought on a team of folks and built this superb algorithm that takes in multiple factors, which combine both your diagnostic report, so your blood work, as well as a questionnaire of information about your likes and dislikes of lifestyle and nutrition. And combined gives you what's called our life plan. And it's scientifically based information that gets the patient engaged with tools and information to get them motivated to want to make lifestyle changes. In fact, one of the questions even is, what are you interested in achieving by joining this life plan? And one of the questions is, my doctor's making me. And that's okay, because to your point about folks maybe not necessarily being in the right frame of mind, able to change that algorithm to get them maybe not quite as aggressive goals, but just make those small minor steps, because those small minor steps make a huge change in their overall risk factors.
Well, Doc, I know a lot of people listening to this might be thinking to themselves, well, gosh, I don't want to eat rabbit food. Do you have to be a kind of an all-vegan diet in order to be heart healthy?
Any change that you make in that regard is going to be a benefit. I think Laura's alluding to that small lifestyle changes can make a big difference. Eating principally a vegan diet is important, and that really is optimal. It doesn't mean everybody who doesn't eat a vegan diet is going to have heart disease, and certainly other issues need to be addressed, and lipid management and exercise and stress. All these are factors that are very important. And I think to whatever degree people can generate themselves in that direction is great. The other thing is there's so much more ways to fix vegan foods than people really realize. And there's some organizations, nationwide organizations, who are very aggressive. There's a group that met here in Dallas, give presentations. And actually, the vegan nutrition can be very delicious and made a very, very variety of ways. And the other thing is that people that commit to it, they feel so much better, because it affects their bodies in such a positive way that often they don't want to go back to other ways of doing things. But the particular point about that is that people need to be educated as to why. The red meats we eat, the other foods we eat, are damaged, which is called the endothelium, the line of our blood vessel, which is critical to our health. Other foods augment that. So when people realize, hey, that I didn't realize that, I don't want that, that's what that's doing to me, and if I do that, that's what they'll do for me, that's what makes the difference. It's not shaking the finger and say eat vegan, it's education, and that's really a great deal of what Boston does. I might add, too, from a standpoint of education, that Laura wouldn't touch on this probably, but it was founded by a man who is a lipidologist who's internationally known. They have great resources. They have a great team of people. If I have a question about some of the tests that I'm not sure how to interpret, they help me with that. They're a great support, not just to patients, but to physicians. And so it's a really strong professional organization I really believe is dedicated to helping people have a better life.
Well, thank you both for being on the show. The websites bostonheartdiagnostics.com and marulamedical.com. And when we come back, is it time to go rogue with your marketing? A man who's going to tell us what that means and how to shatter the noise without busting the budget. That's just ahead on the Jeff Crilley Show.
More of the Jeff Crilley Show coming up.